This week on the Austin Healey channel, I make one little bracket. Hi, welcome back to the shop. For me, it's been a short week, so while I was here, I wanted to get some easy projects done. But due to the order of operations, those easy projects have turned a little more complicated. I decided I wanted to put the striping down here, but to do that, I have to cut the beading, and in order to figure out where to cut the beading, I have to place this. This is adjustable back and forth a little bit. And then there's another section that goes here, so I need the post in place. And this has to be adjusted to that side so they both fit in here at the same place, so you don't have one further than the other. So in order to get them in place, I'm gonna have to build the frame to hold it together so that I know it's square. It's turned into a bit of a snowball, but bit by bit I'm getting there. Yesterday I was in the shop. I got a total of 8 bolts in place. These 2 bolts here and the 2 over there have been proved to be very, very difficult. They're blind nuts, and they kind of float inside, and it was really hard to get the screws started. Actually, it ended up being full of paint, so tapping them out cleaned out the paint, and then I was able to screw them in easier. Yeah, so little by little I'm getting it in position. I've already been able to play with this, which is really cool. I'm able to see how this works, how it'll look when it's down, which looks really, really cool. However, when I do this to the other side, it's shifted off. So I'm gonna have to shim it to bring it back over. And so I'm gonna need the frame in place to do all that. And I'm working over the paint, so everything has to be slow and steady and clean and careful. That's where I am, that's what I've been doing. I'm gonna keep working on this, and hopefully I'll have something to show you later. And speaking of order of operations, these brackets go on with screws, and then this gets screwed to here from the inside, and then that becomes all one piece. And you have to put the bracket on first, and then the screws in here before the rubber and the glass can go in. So I'm trying to figure out how that's all gonna work. I think I have these brackets on right. I'm not sure at this point. But these brackets, well, I don't know if you can see down in there, the screws for the brackets are actually sticking out beyond the bracket, right where the glass is going to sit. So those screws are actually going to interfere with the glass and potentially break it. So what I'm going to do, so they go through like this. What I'm going to do is actually grind this down so they're just the right length to go in there. It's not ideal. You know, it's another step you have to do. This whole windshield thing, you know, this is my first BN1, and so this is and it didn't have the windshield with it, so I've not really gotten to play with one before, so it's a bit of a puzzle. I've pulled in the pieces from all corners of the world, and you know, then sent them out to have expensive chroming put on them. Well, expensive, it was, you know, a step I couldn't do, and now I'm trying to assemble it all, and It's been challenging, I'll admit that, but this is one of the coolest things about the Healey 100, though I totally get why they went to a fixed windshield in the later models. It's there's a lot of moving parts and fine adjusting and stuff. I see why it was not economically viable, and that's usually why the decisions like this are taken. I got the frame together, and I'd hoped to use it without the glass in it to get everything positioned, then put the glass in and put it back on. However, it's too flexible without the glass. I don't know. I'm having trouble getting the screws tight enough, and just the joints are. It's a strange thing. So I think what I'm going to do is put the glass in and go forward that way. This design is really surprising. I've heard really bad things about these brackets, especially the aftermarket ones, how they're just really poorly made. I think some of it's that. Some of the tolerances on the threads are, not the screws, but the holes are way off, and so the screws won't tighten. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. Yeah, I just didn't really want to dive into the glass this week. I'm taking them all off. I'm going to grind down the screws and just trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. The threads just don't seem very grabby. Alright. So I've got that much to... Maybe I'll put a washer back here to make up for the space of the chrome piece, but that's about how much I got to grind off. 16 times. Here's some good news. So I bought the bracket set, and it says including screws, so I was just using those screws. But I had not seen that when I placed the order, so I also had ordered screws. Now I was checking out these screws to see if they were higher quality, and it turns out they mostly are, but I don't know if you can see this, they're also a lot shorter. So that means that I don't have to, modify all these screws. I can just use the ones that are, the right size, and not the ones that were included, oddly enough. So, this bracket is giving me a hard time. For several reasons. The screws that go in here and here, the outer side, they won't tighten up. They just spin. And as you can see, the miter here has this gigantic gap in it, which that's just not going to work. So what I'm thinking about doing is making my own, which is going to prove tricky and is going to require a trip to the hardware store, because I don't think I have any screws that are this tiny, and I don't have any taps that are in this size. So I'm going to do it. I'll do this corner in metric. Shame, but that's how it's going to be. Over here on this side, I have gotten this one side screwed into the pillar. This is going to be interesting putting it together. And the later models have a big fat rubber piece that goes inside that the windshield screw rides on, and then it has the sealing rubber around it. And this doesn't have that bouncy piece. So I just the engineering behind this windshield is it kind of scares me. So yesterday I went to the hardware store because I need to make one of these. Went to their steel section, and couldn't find steel that was thin enough. It was all too thick. Okay, I went over to the bracket section, found a whole bunch of brackets, but it all had holes in it. What I ended up doing is buying this. It's a hinge. It's the right thickness though, so that's the important part. And I'm just gonna cut out, a strip to make this bracket. I know, I'm sure it makes full economic sense to, buy this, which probably costs twice as much as this original bracket, to make another one. So, let's get going. I've gotten over a long time ago that lots of parts just aren't going to work. They don't fit, they're mismade, they're just poor quality. This is how it is. What can you do? Scream against the wind. But I thought it'd be a fun exercise to look at their bracket versus my bracket. So here we go, hang with me. We're gonna do some math. The bracket set itself originally cost 1750 euros. I'm not counting shipping, but it included screws. The screws I bought separately were 327. So 1750 minus 327 is 14.23. But that's for all four of the brackets. I only needed to make one. So 14.23 divided by 4 is 3.55. That's the total value of this one little bracket right here that I had to make. So now that we know the cost of the store-bought bracket, let's look at the cost of the bracket I made. I had to go to the hardware store and buy a hinge and some screws. The hinge was 4.99 for €4.99, and the screws were 169 for a total of 6.68. So my hinge, just in raw materials, is already more expensive, but is not finished yet. That's just the raw materials. It took me an hour to go shopping and an hour to produce the part, roughly. I didn't set my watch. I don't get paid by the hour, but my local mechanic does, the one I take my daily driver to. Their hourly rate at the dealership is 65 euros an hour. So we take 2 hours, that's 130 euros. So altogether, my little bracket cost 136 euros and 68 cents. That's a little bit more expensive than the 3 euros 55 bracket that I bought. However, my bracket works. My bracket fits. So the point in all of this, I could have used that bracket. I could have lived with the gap in the miter. If I didn't care about quality, if I didn't want to spend the time to do it right. And if you're having somebody else do the work and they're on a fixed budget, then, or doing it for a fixed price, are they gonna take the time to do this miter right? Or are they just gonna stick the part in that showed up and, live with the bad miter? For, 130 bucks? Which is, what do you think they're gonna do? It's their bottom line. So, I've seen a lot of people say, oh man, getting a car restored is expensive. Well, this is one of the reasons. If you don't have a part, you have to fabricate it. If you can get parts and they're crap, you have to fabricate it. If you're lucky and the parts fit, then you're okay. But generally the quality on the parts that we're seeing, you kind of have to fabricate stuff, or at least fix it. I'm not upset. I'm not complaining about the parts. I just wanted to do this exercise for myself, basically, because the level just seems so out of balance between what I paid for and what it costs to make it right. I wanted to share that with you. And I hope that you have much better luck with your parts.
If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want YouTube to tell you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Thanks for watching, and your support is very much appreciated.